Imagine this. You give 40 years of your life to a job. You wake up at 65. And instead of freedom, you find fear. The pension is too small. The savings are gone. The calendar feels like a countdown. You realize you've worked your entire life, and yet you have nothing. This is the truth. No one told you. Hard work alone does not guarantee wealth. Loyalty to a system designed for someone else's profit will never make you free. You were not born to serve until death. You were not born to trade your soul for a paycheck while life slips away. The world does not reward blind obedience. It rewards the man who opens his eyes, breaks the cycle, and builds his own destiny. That's why you're here. Because deep down, you know something is wrong. And if you keep ignoring it, you may spend your best years working, only to retire into poverty. But there is another path, a path of ownership, of financial freedom, of wealth built with intention. Stay with me, because in this journey you will learn the real laws of success, the principles the wealthy use while the world stays asleep. And if you apply them, you'll never work until death. Instead, you'll build a life that works for you. Look around you. Millions of men and women dedicate their lives to work, believing that if they stay loyal to the system, if they clock in on time, obey the rules, and keep their heads down, they'll be rewarded with peace and security when they retire. They imagine the golden years as a time of rest, travel, and freedom. But the truth is far more brutal. Most people arrive at retirement age not with financial freedom, but with fear. They don't own wealth. They own bills. They don't have abundance. They have debt. Studies show that the average American approaching retirement has less than $100,000 saved. Think about that. After 4 decades of labor, 40 years of exchanging time for money, the result is a savings account too small to cover even 5 years of basic living expenses. What happens then? The dream of freedom turns into a nightmare of scarcity. Instead of enjoying life, people cut back on groceries, cancel vacations, and pray they don't get sick because medical bills can wipe out what little remains. Instead of financial independence, they become financially dependent on government checks, on family members, or worse, on credit cards that sink them deeper into debt. This is not freedom. This is slavery dressed in polite words. They call it retirement. But for most, it is just survival with less energy and less hope. Why does this happen? Because from the very beginning, people are programmed to believe in the retirement myth. They are told, work hard, save a little, and one day it will all pay off. But here is the cruel reality. Hard work without ownership never creates wealth. You can labor for 40 years and still end up with nothing if all you did was trade hours for wages. Look closely, and you will see the trap. A paycheck is not a plan. A pension is not prosperity. And waiting for freedom at 65 is like waiting for rain in the desert. It might come. But by the time it does, it's too late to matter. I have met men who gave everything to their jobs. They missed their children's milestones, sacrificed their health, and poured every ounce of strength into someone else's company. And when they finally reached retirement, what did they have? A weak body, a small pension, and a mind full of regret. They realized too late that loyalty to the system is rewarded with poverty. Understand this. The system was never designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to keep you useful. Your labor builds someone else's empire. Your obedience secures someone else's fortune. And when you're too old to produce, They give you just enough to survive, never enough to thrive. This is why 98% of people end up broke or dependent by the time they retire. Not because they were lazy, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they were never taught the truth about money. They were never shown how wealth is really created. True wealth is not built by waiting until 65. True wealth is built by adopting a new mindset, the millionaire mindset that sees beyond wages. It is built by creating value, building systems, and generating passive income streams that work for you while you sleep. It is built by learning money mastery, not money slavery. Ask yourself right now, if you stopped working today, how long could you survive on what you've saved? For most people, the answer is terrifying. Weeks, maybe months. That is not financial independence. That is financial fragility. And unless you break the pattern, your future will look exactly the same. But here is the good news. This path is not fixed. Retirement into poverty is not destiny. It is simply the result of unchallenged beliefs. And beliefs can be replaced. Habits can be rebuilt. A new identity can be formed. You do not have to become another statistic. You do not have to work until death only to die poor. You can choose a different path, the path of ownership, abundance, and freedom. You can decide today to stop living paycheck to paycheck and start building wealth that multiplies. You can learn the same principles the wealthy use: definite purpose, disciplined action, faith, and persistence. Do not mistake obedience for responsibility. Real responsibility is building a life that provides security for your family and freedom for your future. Real responsibility is refusing to let the system dictate your destiny. If you want proof, look at the wealthy. They do not wait for retirement to begin living. They build lives that generate freedom now. They don't rely on a pension. They rely on passive income. They don't hope the government will take care of them. They take care of themselves by mastering the laws of money and the discipline of success. And here is the hardest truth. The clock is ticking. Every year you delay, you lose time, the most valuable currency you will ever own. Money can be multiplied, but time cannot. At 65, the body is tired. The options are fewer, and the regrets are heavier if you don't act now. You may wake up one day realizing you worked your whole life for someone else's dream, while your own dream was left to die. So I ask you again, what will your retirement look like? Scarcity or freedom? Dependence or independence? Fear or wealth? The answer is not written in your paycheck. It is written in your decisions today. Say this aloud and let it echo in your mind. I refuse to end my life with nothing. I refuse to be another slave to the retirement trap. I build my freedom now. I create wealth now. I claim financial independence now. This is the beginning of your awakening. The harsh reality of retirement is a warning, but it can also be the spark that ignites your transformation. Let's be brutally honest. If hard work was enough to make people rich, every construction worker, every nurse pulling double shifts, every factory worker giving their youth to a machine would be wealthy by now. But they are not. The truth is sobering. 98% of people spend their entire lives working, and by the time they reach retirement, they are broke, dependent, or still in debt. Why does this happen? Because they were taught the wrong formula from the very beginning. Society sold them a lie. Work hard, save a little, and one day you'll be free. But here's the reality. You cannot save your way to wealth. You cannot climb to financial freedom on a paycheck alone. Most people fall into the same cycle. They earn money, They spend almost all of it. They save what little remains. And then they repeat the process month after month, year after year. It's called living paycheck to paycheck. It feels normal because everyone around them is doing it. But normal is the reason most people end up broke. Think about it. If you earn $3,000 a month and spend $2,900, what are you really building? Maybe a few dollars in a savings account, but no real wealth. No passive income, no security. And then when life throws a curveball, a medical bill, un quart repair, a job loss, everything collapses. That's not financial independence. That's financial slavery. And here is the cruel trick the system encourages this cycle. Banks advertise credit cards. Schools teach obedience but never teach money mastery. Employers hand out raises just enough to keep you working, never enough to set you free. The average person believes they're doing the right thing because they follow the rules, but following the rules of a broken system guarantees a broken result. This is why 98% end up broke. They mistake effort for strategy. They confuse saving with building. They wait instead of creating. They consume instead of producing. The wealthy play by different rules. They don't measure money by hours. They measure it by leverage. They don't ask, how much can I save from this paycheck, they ask. How can I create income that flows without me? That's why the rich multiply while the poor struggle. One group focuses on systems, assets, and cash flow. The other group focuses on survival. Let me give you an example. Two men start their careers at the same time. The first works hard, stays loyal to his job, and deposits 10% of his paycheck into a savings account every month. After 30 years, he has a modest nest egg, barely enough to cover his bills. The second man works just as hard but decides early on to invest in himself. He studies financial literacy, learns about passive income, and starts a side business. At first, the extra money is small, but he reinvests it. Over time, his assets compound, and by the time he reaches retirement age, he no longer depends on a paycheck. His money works for him. This is the dividing line between the 98% and the 2%. The majority exchange time for money. The minority build systems that create wealth. And let's be clear, it's not about luck or inheritance. Many of the world's wealthiest people started with nothing. No safety net, no trust fund, no privilege. What separated them was mindset. They refused to believe the lie that labor alone would free them. They looked for ownership, leverage, and abundance. So why do most people stay stuck? Fear of risk, fear of failure, fear of stepping outside the line. They'd rather obey than create. They'd rather hope than build. They'd rather wait for retirement than design freedom today. But waiting has a cost. Every year of hesitation is a year of wealth lost forever. If you want to break out of the 98%, you must reprogram your beliefs about money. You must stop seeing a job as the final destination and start seeing it as fuel for your financial independence. You must stop defining success as getting by and start defining it as building wealth that multiplies. You must replace the paycheck mindset with the millionaire mindset. Ask yourself honestly, have I been working hard without a real strategy? Have I mistaken saving for building? Have I delayed my freedom in exchange for the illusion of security? If the answer is yes, then it's time to make a decision. Because the truth is, your habits today are already writing your financial future. If you continue with the same patterns, you will get the same results. But if you shift your mindset, if you adopt new habits, study financial literacy, and focus on passive income, you will join the 2% who retire free. Not broke? Affirm this now. I refuse to be part of the 98%. I will not end my life broke. I build wealth with intention. I create financial freedom through ownership, leverage, and millionaire habits. The reason most people end up broke is not because they lack opportunity. It is because they never saw the trap they were in. But you see it now, and that means you have the power to break it. For decades, you've been told the same story. Work hard, be loyal, save a little. And when you reach your 60s, you'll finally be free. They call it retirement. They promise it's the reward for 40 years of labor. But let's tell the truth. Retirement is not freedom. For most people, it is the cruelest lie ever sold. Think about it. If retirement was truly the golden age, why do so many people spend it in fear? Why do so many seniors worry about whether their pension will cover rent or whether their savings will last through another year? Why are millions of people forced to choose between paying for medicine or paying for groceries? This is not financial independence. This is survival. The retirement system was never designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to keep you obedient long enough for your energy to be used up. The pension check is not a gift, it's permission to survive. It's a leash disguised as security, and by the time most people realize this, they are too old, too tired, and too weak to fight back. Look around and you'll see the truth. The majority of people spend their youth waiting for retirement, only to discover that their final years are spent counting pennies, not collecting freedom, the dream of travel, comfort, and abundance is replaced by budgets, restrictions, and regret. And here's the darkest part. Many people never even make it. They work until the very end. And before they can enjoy retirement, they're gone. That is the tragedy of waiting for a tomorrow that never comes. Understand this. Retirement is not a plan. It is a delay tactic. It tells you to postpone your life, postpone your dreams, postpone your freedom until you're too weak to enjoy any of it. That is not prosperity. That is slavery with a polite name. But here is the shift. You don't have to accept this lie. True financial freedom is not something you wait for at 65. It's something you build every day through ownership, strategy, and action. Retirement is not freedom. Freedom is waking up and knowing your money works for you, not the other way around. Think of the wealthy. Do they wait until their 60s to live? No, they create systems, businesses, and passive income streams that allow them to live abundantly now. They don't rely on a retirement plan controlled by someone else. They build wealth that multiplies under their own command. That's why Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, and countless entrepreneurs didn't retire into scarcity. They retired into legacies. They didn't depend on pensions. They built prosperity. So, let me ask you, are you living for a retirement that may never come? Or are you building financial independence today? Because the difference will determine whether your final years are filled with freedom or fear. The retirement lie is dangerous because it feels safe. It gives people hope without action, comfort without reality. It convinces them to keep working, keep waiting, keep obeying, until one day they discover the prize is empty. But you don't have to make the same mistake. Decide right now you will not live your best years waiting for permission. You will not hand your freedom to a system that was never designed to give it back. You will not spend your life earning just enough to survive and calling it security. Say this aloud. I reject the retirement lie. I do not wait for freedom. I build it now. My money works for me. My wealth begins today. I live by design, not delay. The retirement myth ends the moment you decide to stop waiting and start building. Freedom doesn't come at 65. Freedom comes the day you refuse to believe the lie. From the first day you sat at a school desk, you were taught one thing above all: how to obey. Side down. Be quiet. Raise your hand for permission. Memorize what the teacher says. Repeat it back on the test. Follow the rules. Stay in line. That was the real curriculum, not wealth, not financial literacy, not creativity, not ownership. And so, generation after generation, children grow up believing that success comes from compliance. They are rewarded for silence, not for vision. They are praised for repeating information, not for questioning it. They are trained to fear mistakes more than mediocrity. And by the time they graduate, they are perfectly prepared not to lead, not to own, but to serve. Look at what schools never teach. They never teach you how to build wealth. They never teach you how to manage money, create passive income, or design a life of financial independence. They never explain how credit works, how investments grow, how businesses are built, or how to master your mindset. Instead, they teach you how to show up on time, follow a schedule, and take orders. Why? Because the system doesn't want owners, it wants employees. Think about it. If schools truly wanted to prepare you for freedom, wouldn't they show you how to create prosperity? Wouldn't they explain how to buy assets instead of liabilities? Wouldn't they train you to think like an investor? Not just a worker, but they don't, because a society of owners cannot be controlled. A society of obedient workers can. This is why most people spend their lives in jobs they hate, living paycheck to paycheck, not because they lack intelligence, but because they were never taught the truth. They were trained to trade time for money, not to create value that multiplies. They were conditioned to seek approval, not purpose. Meanwhile, the wealthy operate by a different education. They study outside the classroom. They invest in mentors, books, courses, and experiences that teach them how money really works. They learn about leverage, systems, entrepreneurship, and the power of mindset. They practice the millionaire habits that schools ignore: goal setting, visualization, persistence, and financial literacy. And because of that, they rise while others stay stuck. Consider Thomas Edison. His teachers said he was unteachable. They told his mother he would never succeed in school. But Edison's mother believed in him. She pulled him out of the system, and he went on to light the entire world. Not because of a classroom, but because of vision, persistence, and faith. That's the irony. The same system that rejected Edison now celebrates him, but punishes any student who dares to think as he did. And Edison was not alone. Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and countless others became builders of wealth, not because of what schools taught them, but because of what schools failed to teach them. They thought differently. They refused to obey the script. They questioned the path, and because they did, they created prosperity and abundance while others simply waited for a paycheck. Ask yourself, What did school teach you about money? Did it ever show you how to build passive income? Did it ever explain the laws of wealth? Like definite purpose, autosuggestion, or the power of mastermind alliances? Did it ever prepare you for ownership, or did it prepare you for employment? This is not an attack on learning. Education is powerful when it liberates the mind, but schooling without wisdom is just indoctrination. True education awakens creativity, discipline, and purpose. False education silences, questions, and chains people to a system that was never designed to set them free. If you want to break free from the retirement trap, you must unlearn what schools taught you about money and success. You must retrain your mind to think like an owner, not an employee. That means studying financial literacy, developing wealth habits, and building a success mindset. It means asking the questions schools never allowed you to ask: who benefits from my obedience? Who profits when I trade time for wages? Why was I taught to fear failure, but never taught to build prosperity? The moment you start asking these questions, you begin reclaiming your freedom. You begin rewriting your identity not as a servant of the system, but as the commander of your destiny. Repeat this with me now. I was not born to follow instructions. I was born to create them. I was not trained for obedience. I was made for ownership. I build my wealth. I live with financial freedom. I command abundance. This is the mindset shift that separates the 98% from the 2%. One group continues to obey the old script, waiting for retirement that never comes. The other group studies wealth, applies financial literacy, builds passive income, and achieves independence long before the age of 65. Which group will you belong to? The choice is not made by your diploma. The choice is made by your decision today. Will you stay a product of the system, or will you rise above it to build a life of prosperity and power? The truth is simple. Schools train employees, not owners. But you are not chained to their script. You can rewrite your story. You can educate yourself in the laws of wealth, practice the millionaire habits that bring freedom, and build systems that multiply your money instead of draining it. Say it again with conviction. I think for myself. I build my own path. My education never ends because I study freedom, wealth, and abundance. That is how you break free from the false lessons of the past. That is how you become the owner of your future. Let's face it, most people were trained to believe that a job equals security from childhood. They were told to get good grades, find a good job, and everything will be fine. But here's the truth. A job is not security. A job is not freedom. And a job is not a wealth-building plan. At best, it is a temporary solution. At worst, it becomes a lifelong prison. Think about what a job really is. You trade hours of your life for money. When the hours stop, the money stops. You give your energy, your creativity, your strength to build someone else's dream. You call it security, but what it really means is dependence. You depend on a paycheck, on a boss, on a system that can replace you tomorrow. That's not independence. That's vulnerability. Now let's be clear. There is nothing wrong with having a job. Work is noble. But what's dangerous is mistaking your job for a life plan. Too many people cling to their paycheck as if it's their only option, forgetting that a paycheck alone will never create financial freedom. A job should be used as a tool, a stepping stone to fund your vision, not a cage to keep you trapped. Look at history. Edwin C. Barnes started as a clerk. He didn't despise the job. But he had a burning desire to become a business partner with Thomas Edison. He used his job to get into the room. He worked with purpose, not just for wages. And once he proved his value, he stepped into ownership. He didn't plan to stay an employee forever. He used the job as leverage for freedom. That's the mindset difference. This is the mistake of the 98%. They give their life to a job without a greater plan. They wake up, punch in, work all day, punch out, and repeat the cycle until their best years are gone. They never stop to ask, is this building my freedom, or is this just survival? Understand this: a job can pay your bills, but it cannot create wealth. Wealth comes from ownership. Wealth comes from building systems, assets, and passive income streams that continue to produce even when you stop working. Wealth comes from aligning your efforts with a definite purpose, not just following a routine. When you confuse a job with a life plan, you sacrifice your potential. You shrink your dreams to fit inside the boundaries of someone else's company. You wait for a raise instead of raising your own value. You pray for job security instead of building financial independence. And by the time you realize the truth, decades have already slipped away. Here's the shift: don't abandon your job recklessly, but never worship it either. Use it. Use the paycheck to invest in yourself. Use it to buy books, courses, and knowledge that expand your money mastery. Use it to build side businesses, real estate, or investments that generate passive income. Use it to fund your vision, but never mistake it for the vision itself. Your job should be your tool, not your master. It should give you leverage, not limitation. It should serve your purpose, not erase it. Ask yourself today, if your job ended tomorrow, would you still have income? If the answer is no, then you are not financially free. You are dependent, and dependence is just another word for modern slavery. But you can change that. Begin by seeing your job for what it truly is, a means to an end, not the end itself. Create a plan for financial independence. Decide how much of your paycheck will go toward building wealth instead of just covering expenses. Develop the millionaire mindset that asks, how can I turn today's labor into tomorrow's ownership? Because the truth is, a job is temporary, but wealth is permanent. A job ends when the company no longer needs you. Wealth continues when you no longer have the strength to work. A job pays you for effort. Wealth pays you for systems. A job may keep you alive. Wealth gives you freedom. So stop mistaking survival for success. Stop calling dependence security. Stop trading your life away for crumbs. Use your job wisely, but build beyond it. Build something that works for you, not just something you work for. Affirm this now: my job is not my identity. It is my tool. I use my job to build financial freedom. I invest in myself. I create ownership. And I build passive income. My wealth does not depend on a paycheck. My wealth depends on my vision. The moment you shift from seeing a job as your destiny to seeing it as your stepping stone, you reclaim your power. And once you reclaim your power, no employer, no paycheck, and no system can control your future again. Most people believe wealth is purely material. They think it comes from long hours, heavy labor, or chasing the next paycheck. But here's the truth that few are ever taught: wealth is spiritual before it is material. Every fortune, every empire, every stream of passive income begins in the invisible world of thought, belief, and faith. Money does not obey time. Money obeys thought. A man can work a lifetime and die broke, while another man can organize his vision with clarity and become wealthy in a few short years. What separates them is not effort, but alignment. You cannot rise in wealth until you rise in mind. You cannot earn abundantly until you believe you are worthy of abundance. You cannot command money until you first obey the laws that govern prosperity. These are not laws written in books of economics or by politicians. These are eternal laws built into the structure of life itself. Break them, and you struggle, obey them, and the world yields. Think of faith. Faith is not blind hope. It is the ability to see the invisible as if it already exists. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." That is the law of faith in action. If you declare poverty, your subconscious mind obeys and delivers lack. If you declare wealth with conviction, your subconscious begins to build the path. This is why autosuggestion is so powerful. To the untrained mind, it sounds like empty repetition, but to the wealthy, it is mental programming. What you say to yourself with emotion day after day becomes instruction for your subconscious mind. And your subconscious does not argue, it executes. Tell yourself you're broke, and your mind will look for ways to prove it. Tell yourself you are building wealth, and your mind will seek opportunities to create it. This is money mastery at its root. It begins in your thoughts, not in your wallet. Consider Andrew Carnegie. He was not the strongest laborer in the steel mills. He was not swinging hammers or sweating on the factory floor. His wealth came because he understood the spiritual law of organization. He built a mastermind alliance surrounding himself with people whose skills complemented his own. He believed in the principle that unity of thought creates multiplication of results. That is not mere business strategy. That is spiritual law at work. John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men of his era, practiced tithing, not out of superstition, but out of principle. He believed wealth was a stewardship, not just possession. He aligned his money with purpose. Because of that, his empire grew on discipline and vision, not just profit. Thomas Edison spoke of the electric light long before it existed. He walked with certainty when others mocked him. Why? Because he obeyed the invisible law of belief. Faith applied to a definite chief. Aim creates reality. This is why the poor man may work harder than the rich man and yet remain poor. He uses muscle while the other uses mind. One sweats without direction, the other thinks with precision. And the man who thinks according to law will create in 1 year what another cannot in a lifetime. Let's break down these laws clearly. 1, the law of definite chief aim. Wealth begins with clarity. You must decide exactly what you want and direct your thoughts toward it daily. Without a target, your energy is scattered. With a definite purpose, every action has power. 2, the law of faith and autosuggestion. Your subconscious mind is your greatest servant. It accepts repeated instructions with emotion as commands. Feed it doubt, and it creates failure. Feed it belief, and it builds wealth. 3, the law of organized planning. Random effort produces random results. Wealth obeys structure. You must plan, measure, adjust, and persist Every dollar should have a destination. Every hour should serve your vision. 4. The mastermind principle. No man rises alone. Align your mind with others who share your vision, and the collective energy multiplies. Results: 2 minds in harmony are more powerful than 10 working alone. 5. The law of cosmic habit force. Life rewards rhythm, not randomness. Your daily habit create your destiny. Wealth is not an event, it is a pattern. Repeat the right thoughts and actions long enough, and they become your identity. Do you see now why wealth is spiritual first? Because until you align your thoughts, your words, your beliefs, and your habits, no amount of labor will free you. Money responds to organized thought. It flows to clarity, of faith, and disciplined action. Ask yourself today, what am I declaring over my life? Do I wake up saying, I can't afford this, I'll never get ahead? Or do I wake up declaring, I am building financial freedom, I am creating wealth, I am worthy of abundance? Because whichever words you speak, your subconscious will obey. Affirm this now with conviction: my wealth begins in my mind. My thoughts create my reality. I align my belief with my purpose. I master money because I master myself. I am not chasing money. Money is attracted to me through clarity, discipline, and faith. Understand this. Riches are not the reward of effort alone. They are the reward of alignment with law. This is why a poor man can work 2 jobs and still struggle, while another man builds one system and multiplies wealth. The difference is not luck. It is law. The question is not whether these laws work. The question is whether you will work them, because the moment you do, when your mind, your words, your habits, and your actions move in harmony, you step into the 2% who build prosperity while the 98% wait for crumbs. When people hear the word slavery, they imagine chains, whips, and cages. But in today's world, the most dangerous chains are not made of metal. They are made of habits. Habits so ordinary, so repeated, so invisible, that most people don't even recognize them as the prison they are living in. Look at the average day. Wake up late. Check the phone. Scroll through distractions. Rush to work. Trade 8, 10, 12 hours for a paycheck. Come home exhausted. Numb the mind with television, food, or gossip. Fall asleep without purpose. Repeat year after year, and then one day they wonder why financial freedom never came. The truth is simple. You don't rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your habits. Your habits are your identity in action, and your identity produces your results. If your habits are weak, your future will be weak. If your habits are disciplined, your future will be powerful. Napoleon Hill called it the law of cosmic habit force, the principle that everything repeated long enough becomes permanent. Thoughts repeated become beliefs. Actions repeated become habits. Habits repeated become character. And character repeated becomes destiny. That means your entire financial life, your wealth, your prosperity, your independence is being built right now by what you repeatedly do. This is why most people remain broke. Not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because their daily rhythm keeps them enslaved. They have poor money habits, spending more than they earn, living paycheck to paycheck, never saving, never investing. They have poor success habits, procrastinating, drifting, reacting instead of creating. These are the real chains, but here's the good news. If habits can enslave you, habits can also set you free. Freedom is not a one-time decision. It is a rhythm. It is the consistent practice of millionaire habits, wealth-building routines, and a success mindset. Think of Andrew Carnegie. He was not just a man of vision, he was a man of structure. He woke early, planned his day, and reviewed his progress. Every hour had purpose. Think of Charles Schwab, who measured and tracked every detail of his business. His discipline was the foundation of his fortune. Or Thomas Edison, who tested his inventions thousands of times with persistence and rhythm. These men weren't slaves to chance, they were masters of habit. So ask yourself, what habits are you repeating today? Are you feeding your mind with books, knowledge, and financial literacy? Or are you consuming endless distraction? Do you wake with clarity, speaking your definite chief aim? Or do you wake and let the world tell you who you are? Do you track your money? Invest with purpose and build passive income streams. Or do you spend without thought and hope something will change? Your answer determines your destiny, because habits, not wishes, decide who you become. Here is the model of wealthy habits, the daily rhythm that transforms ordinary men into extraordinary leaders. Morning command, rise before the world speaks. Declare your vision aloud. Read your goals. Repeat your wealth affirmations with conviction. Midday alignment, check your progress. Ask, am I still on target? Am I building my freedom or drifting? Correct your path immediately. Evening review. Write down what you accomplished. Record what you learned. Repeat your aim before bed and visualize prosperity as already yours. This rhythm programs the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind builds your results. It is not glamorous, but it is powerful, because what you do consistently, you become permanently. Do not underestimate this truth. Habits are stronger than motivation. Motivation fades. Inspiration comes and goes. But habits carry you when emotion disappears. Habits build your identity, and your identity builds your wealth. Say this with me. Each day I command my habits, and my habits build my freedom. I practice millionaire habits. I live with a success mindset. I build financial independence through rhythm and discipline. Do not say, I am too old to change. Do not say, it's too late. The moment you change your habits, you change your life. The man who reforms his daily rhythm reforms his destiny, and the chains that once enslaved him become the very links of his freedom. Remember this, if you don't control your habits will control you. If you don't choose your rhythm, someone else will. But once you command your habits with discipline and direction, no force on earth can keep you poor, weak, or ordinary. Freedom is not built in one dramatic moment. It is built in small disciplines, practiced daily. Habits are the chains, but they can also be the key. The choice is yours. Life has a brutal law that most people ignore until it's too late. The man who waits will always end up working for the man who doesn't. Opportunity does not reward hesitation. Wealth does not wait for the cautious. Financial freedom is never handed to the man who delays. Look around, and you'll see it everywhere. The ones who take action, even imperfect action, Rise above, the ones who sit still, waiting for clarity, waiting for the perfect moment, remain trapped while they analyze, hesitate, and second guess. Someone else makes the move, and when the dust settles, the movers become the masters, and the waiters become the servants. Think of the entrepreneurs who saw possibilities when others doubted. Henry Ford dared to mass-produce automobiles while most people laughed. Thomas Edison declared light before it existed. Andrew Carnegie organized steel when others feared risk. They did not wait for permission. They acted, and because they acted, they built wealth, prosperity, and legacies that still live today. Now compare this to the countless men who hesitated. They waited for the economy to improve. They waited for a guarantee. They waited until they felt ready. And while they waited, someone else seized the chance, built the system, claimed the wealth. The truth is simple. Hesitation is the most expensive habit you can ever form. Why do so many people wait? Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing what little they already have. But fear disguised as patience is still fear, and fear, if obeyed, will chain you for life. Understand this. Waiting is not neutral. Waiting is moving backward. Every day, you delay. Someone else advances. Every year you hesitate. Someone else builds. And when you finally decide to act, you find the opportunities gone, the doors closed, and the future already owned by the bold. This is why most people end up with nothing, not because they weren't capable, but because they waited too long. They told themselves, one day I'll start saving. One day I'll invest. One day I'll build my business. And then one day turned into 10 years. 10 years turned into a lifetime. And the only thing they built was regret. The wealthy live by a different code. They understand that movement precedes manifestation. They know that you cannot wait for confidence. You build confidence by acting. They know that wealth does not flow to the man who hesitates. It flows to the man who seizes the moment. That is the essence of the millionaire mindset action now. Adjustment later. Think about this. Every fortune you admire was created because someone refused to wait. Every empire you respect was built because someone moved when others paused. The world does not crown the cautious, it crowns the bold. Ask yourself today, how many opportunities have I lost because I hesitated? How much wealth slipped away because I waited for certainty that never came? How many dreams died because I delayed? You must accept this law if you do not act. You will serve the one who did. If you do not claim your future, someone else will. And when you look back, you'll realize you spent your best years working for the vision of a man who had the courage you lacked. But you can change this right now. You don't need perfect knowledge. You don't need absolute clarity. You need courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite fear. Say this aloud: I act while others wait. My speed creates my freedom. My movement builds my wealth. I refuse to live as a servant of hesitation. I create prosperity now. Every day you delay is a day lost forever. Every action you take is a seed planted in your future. Choose wisely, because the law is unbreakable. Wait, and you will serve. Act, and you will lead all your life. You've been trained to serve. Serve the system. Serve the company. Serve the boss. You've been told that obedience is noble. that compliance is success, and that if you just follow instructions long enough, you'll eventually be rewarded. But the truth is harsh. The man who spends his entire life serving without ownership dies forgotten. Understand this clearly. There is nothing wrong with service when it comes from purpose. Serving your family, your vision, your mission, that is honorable. But serving fear, serving routine, serving a paycheck that barely sustains you, that is slavery disguised as responsibility. And until you see the difference, you will remain a servant. No matter how polished your suit or how high your salary, the turning point in life comes when a man decides to stop living as a servant and begins to live as a commander. What does that mean? It means you stop waiting for orders and start giving them to yourself, to your circumstances, to your future. It means you stop reacting to life and start directing it. It means you step out of the role of an employee of the world and step into the role of an owner of your destiny. Command begins in the mind. You cannot command others until you first command yourself. The man who cannot control his thoughts will always be controlled by someone else. The man who cannot discipline his habits will always be trapped by routine. The man who cannot master his own fear will always serve the man who conquered his. This is why wealth is not just about money, it's about identity. You cannot hold financial freedom with the mindset of a servant. You cannot build abundance while thinking like an employee. You must think like an owner, act like an owner, and speak like an owner long before the world recognizes you as one. That is the essence of the millionaire mindset. Look at history. Every great leader, every wealthy builder, every man who left a legacy made the shift from servant to commander. Andrew Carnegie didn't remain a messenger boy. He chose to command his vision of steel empires. Henry Ford didn't remain a mechanic. He commanded the idea of mass production. Thomas Edison didn't remain a factory worker. He commanded the future of light. They all started as servants, but they refused to die as servants. They chose command. And here is the truth. You must make the same choice. No one will hand you freedom. No one will promote you into prosperity. The world does not reward the obedient with ownership. The world rewards the man who commands with clarity, faith, and relentless action. How do you make this shift? You begin by writing your own definite chief aim, the clear statement of who you are, what you demand from life, and how you will create value. You repeat it until it burns into your subconscious. Then you align your habits with it. Every morning, you command yourself to act. Every evening, you command yourself to measure progress. You refuse to drift. You refuse to delay. You refuse to surrender your life to the illusion of security. You stop saying, I hope, and start saying, I will. You stop waiting for opportunity and start creating it. You stop renting your time and start owning your results. You stop obeying the script and start writing your own. That is how a servant becomes a commander. Ask yourself today, am I living as a servant or as a commander? Do I spend my days serving someone else's dream? Or am I building my own? Do I obey fear? Or do I command courage? Do I react to circumstances? Or do I direct them with purpose? Say this aloud with power. I am no longer a servant of fear, of routine, of wages. I command my mind. I command my habits. I command my wealth. I was born for ownership, prosperity, and financial independence. I live as a commander, not as a servant. The shift from servant to commander is not easy, but it is necessary, because if you refuse to command, The world will use you as a servant until your final breath, but the moment you decide to command your thoughts, your time, your money, you begin to live as you were meant to live, with purpose, with abundance, and with true financial freedom. Never forget this truth. Servants obey. Commanders create, and the man who creates will always be remembered, while the servant will always be replaced. How many times have you heard this phrase, work hard now so you can enjoy life later? Later, always later. Later when the bills are paid. Later when the kids are grown. Later when you retire. But here's the tragedy. Later never comes. By the time most people arrive at later, their bodies are weak. Their options are gone. And their dreams have withered into regret. This is the cruel lie of the retirement system. It convinces people to sacrifice the best years of their lives in exchange for the hope of financial freedom at 65. But freedom is not something you wait for. Freedom is something you build. Now, waiting is the enemy. Every year you delay. Every month you postpone. Every day you drift. Your opportunities shrink. The time you could have spent building passive income, mastering money, and creating prosperity slips away forever. You cannot get it back. You cannot start over at 70 with the energy you had at 30. You cannot buy back decades wasted in hesitation. Understand this. Freedom does not belong to the man who waits. It belongs to the man who builds. It belongs to the one who says, I will not trade my life for a pension. I will not wait until I am too tired to live. I will build my financial independence now. Look at the wealthy. They do not postpone their vision until retirement. They live their vision today. They design systems that create income while they sleep. They build businesses, investments, and assets that generate wealth long before the world says it's time. They understand that prosperity is a choice, not a reward handed out at the end of life. You can do the same. Start small if you must, but start now. Begin by changing your habits. Replace consumption with creation. Trade excuses for execution. Invest in financial literacy. Learn how money really works. Begin building assets, no matter how small, because every seed of wealth planted today multiplies tomorrow. Don't say, I'll start when I have more money. That is the lie that keeps millions trapped. The truth is, you start with what you have, where you are. You use your job as a tool, not your destiny. You use your time wisely. You discipline your spending, increase your income streams, and invest in your growth. Because freedom doesn't arrive one day, it grows with every intentional action you take. Think of it this way. If you save and invest $10 a day, that's $300 a month. Over time, with the power of compound growth that can turn into financial independence, small actions, repeated daily, create massive results. The wealthy don't wait for the perfect amount of money to begin. They begin, and that's why they become wealthy. Ask yourself, do I want to spend my life working until death? Or do I want to build a life that works for me? Do I want to depend on a pension? Or do I want to create passive income streams that set me free? Do I want to wait for permission? Or do I want to claim ownership of my future right now? The answer determines everything. Repeat this affirmation aloud. I build my freedom now, not later. I create wealth today. I invest in myself. I develop millionaire habits. I generate passive income. I live with financial freedom, prosperity, and abundance, not someday, but now. You must see this clearly every day as a brick in the foundation of your future. If you build with purpose, your foundation will be strong. If you build with hesitation, your future will crumble. Do not let 65 be the finish line. Let today be the starting line. Because the truth is, freedom is not an age. Freedom is not a number. Freedom is an identity. The man who thinks like a commander, who acts with purpose, who builds with discipline, that man is free, no matter what his age. So let the rest of the world wait for permission. Let them cling to pensions, the hope for retirement, and count the days on a calendar. You will not. You will build your prosperity now. You will create wealth while you still have strength, energy, and vision. You will step into financial independence today and design a life of abundance that grows with you, not after you. This is the law if you wait. You lose if you build now. You win. Choose wisely. Choose now. You have a choice to make. You can keep living the script that was handed to you, work until 65, hope for a pension, and pray it lasts. Or you can break the chains now, step into ownership, and build a future of wealth, abundance, and financial freedom. The truth is simple. No one is coming to save you, not the company, not the government, not the system. The only person who can rewrite your story is you, and the time to do it is not someday, it is today. You were not born to be a servant of wages. You were born to command prosperity. You were not designed to wait for permission. You were designed to create wealth, to live with purpose, to rise with courage. So make this your declaration. I will not work until death and end with nothing. I build my freedom now. I live with a millionaire mindset. I create passive income. I practice success habits. I design my wealth with intention. And as you step forward, remember this: freedom is not an age. Freedom is not a dream. Freedom is a decision. The moment you choose ownership, discipline, and purpose, you begin to live the life you were always meant to live. Now, if this message awakened something in you, if it reminded you that you are meant for more, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs it. And join us on this journey, because together, we are not just building wealth. We are building a generation of leaders, creators, and free men. Your time is now. Your life is yours. Your freedom begins today.